Hello campers, my name is Paul Hughes, I am the Lord of Leisure, and welcome once again to the Gaming Car Crash! And also it's going to be one of those things that, yes, the internet needs entirely another one of. It's a video on Overwatch, the game being developed by Blizzard Entertainment, which is, well, more team-based shooty bang bang stuff. But don't worry, it's not going to be an overly long one, he says. And if you don't mind, I need to get serious for a few minutes. Hang on, actually, what I should do is just... Yeah. Right, I've seen people do this in films. Right, let's get serious. In case you're wondering, this will be a simple summation of the impressions gained while recently playing for the first time Overwatch. Finally, we mere mortals were allowed to try it during the last beta before the final release was scheduled later in May 2016. According to Blizzard themselves, what you saw during the open beta was pretty damn close to what you would see on release. If that's the case, then Houston, we have a problem. More so, the problems only became apparent when I attempted to livestream the game over a course of a Saturday afternoon, expecting laughs aplenty and to finally be able to play the damn thing whose hype had only been growing since the end of 2015, where you pretty much saw every other YouTuber on the internet play the damn thing over and over and over and over and over again. Now, for the record, the Overwatch Open Beta technically was spot on. No performance issues of note, controls indeed were responsive, and there were no dropouts in terms of connectivity, which, for a stress test, was excellent going. Having tried the beta on a couple of machines, there was one major issue of note, and that was on a laptop with a 4K display. Due to the ridiculous native resolution of the laptop screen, the text on the main menu had scaled up, but not the actual controls relating to said text, which means you couldn't actually do anything without playing whack-a-mole with the mouse trying to hit the right option. In essence, you were bollocksed basically until you dropped the resolution on the desktop to 1080p, after which all was well. So all in all, for the most part, aside from that one silly thing, which probably will get fixed before release, technically the beta performed excellently. So then, you're probably expecting me to say, everything's fantastic, everything is wonderful, everything is awesome, everything... Oh, sorry, shouldn't really start singing. Look how well that turned out last time. No. In many ways, even just as an open beta, Overwatch showed itself to be a really nice, polished product. The heroes within the game clearly are their own unique individuals, with little quirks here and there to really add nice little touches to their character. In essence, you wouldn't be shocked seeing them on a Saturday morning cartoon, as Blizzard had clearly already shown that via trailers. They could even show up in a film and would be entertaining to watch. The levels themselves are very well detailed, with a number of avenues to explore for getting the upper hand against your opponents, and getting your friends together for a good time was actually nice and easy. In essence, Overwatch does indeed have things here to grab your attention and possibly extract even more cash from your wallets. Basically, this is where it goes a little bit meh. My actual problems with Overwatch pertain to the game itself, and actually a few things which the various powers that be on the internet, because God help us that we actually need more people moaning on the internet. Yes, I know the irony, this is a video moaning. Meh 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 meh. But anyway, basically various people on the internet have been very quick to shout down us mere mortals who even dared to just try the game out for the very first time. You see, there are two simple facts which I can't escape, especially after a rather lengthy session with the Overwatch beta, that fundamentally has to be addressed here. I can't leave it. I'm sorry. I have to do this. The first one is that the beta assumed you knew what you were doing. I mean, just look at this face. Seriously, just get a whole overview of the thing. Does this look like does this face show that I know what I'm doing? Actually, does this face look like it knows what day it is? Actually, what day is it? Aside from a pretty piss-poor training section where you played as a character called Soldier 78, or as I like to call him, Agent 47, you walked around a bit and shot a couple of target dummies. and then you were pretty much expected to just go for it in the hopes that you would pick it up somehow, especially in how to play as each of the 21 heroes due to come with the game on release. You would have thought on the face of it, that doesn't sound like a big deal at all, does it? But given how the game has been designed, each hero has a different playstyle of their very own, complete with a unique super duper whooper power, whatever, which you can activate when you've done enough of something. But don't worry about that, because every hero that you play as can be countered by another hero or strategy, as they all have flaws. So in essence, the game should be considered quite nicely balanced, because you can just change to another hero to counteract what another hero on the enemy team is doing. Now, if you actually knew which heroes were able to counteract each other and what strategies worked, then, well, that would be super. Except when you're playing for the first time, you have no fucking idea whatsoever. Not only that, but you can have jolly good fun getting lost in all the maps, or even just trying to find out what you have to do for the very first time, and then get lovely abuse from other players over the game's built-in voice chat. In essence, I can only conclude that Overwatch is not for beginners, which kind of leads you to another question, and how exactly are you supposed to try and get better at Overwatch without playing the game? Perhaps the assumption should have been is that you should have been watching all the endless gameplay videos on YouTube, so that then you have a start of a clue of what to do. Well, sorry chums, but when people like 2K release stuff like XCOM 2, or we get our dirty little paws on something so deliciously gory like Doom, the last thing we're going to be doing with our free time is spending it watching hundreds of hours of gameplay videos telling us how to play Overwatch and what hero to play as, where the game itself should have been making more of an effort on that side of things. Or maybe, in its own way, the game actually has done so. Instead of playing online with real people, perhaps we should have been sticking to playing with the bots in the practice arena until we actually mastered every single hero. Sounds great, doesn't it? Except when I did this, it was pretty much a waste of time, as the bots basically just played against each other well above my skill level, and I may as well just have left the PC on and gone for a shit for all the difference my contribution made. The feelings of being lost and useless when playing Overwatch came to a head when, stupidly, I went into the mode where they changed the rules of Overwatch for a given time period. Basically, the same setup like the Tavern Brawl mode within Hearthstone. This mode randomly changed the hero each time you died, and therefore for a first playthrough was nothing short of a fucking disaster. Oh, and I got killed by some... Okay, I have to be brutally honest, I am fucking lost with this. It's almost like... I'm sorry, I have to have time to understand what each of these characters can do and then practice with them before even attempting to play online. I mean, otherwise, you're basically like me right now. Apparently, I am throwing stars and doing nothing else. What am I supposed to do as that character? Oh well, it doesn't matter. I'm dead anyway. Who was he? Jendi, and he was throwing stuff. And now I am Reaper with shotguns. Okay. I can do stuff with shotguns. Unfortunately, this disaster of an online match set the tone for the rest of the live stream, and the feelings of annoyance and frustration were always present. It was only due to the fact that a viewer of the live stream joined in, and from then on, we played together. It made the experience of playing Overwatch far less annoying, and all credit to him, he was also explaining how to play the game too. Blizzard really should do something to explain how the heroes work, possibly by a series of practice levels and cutscenes. Hell, given the amount of time Blizzard have spent on creating cinematics of Overwatch, and thus setting up the story behind everything, perhaps it would actually help to give some real context in the actual game itself as to why everyone is fighting each other. Overwatch is not attempting to be Doom, where, let's be honest, no one gives a fuck about the actual story itself, and instead they just want to focus on shooty shooty bang bang. So this has to be something that Blizzard considers putting in. So now we segue badly on to the next big problem that I see with Overwatch, playing with yourself. Oi, stop it! Okay, I admit, I asked for that one. What I actually mean is the time you spend playing by yourself with random strangers instead of friends. You see, Overwatch really only came to its own when I was joined by 3 other friends online and we played together as a team, instead of just playing with the group of strangers doing whatever they felt like. In those instances, it actually became much more enjoyable, and you could see progress was being made. We were all together on Skype, chatting away, having a laugh, and all in all, Overwatch became something not to be annoyed at. You saw where to go on the maps, again thanks to someone else knowing what they were doing. Thanks Adam9200! And you started to realise that changing the heroes actually does matter partway through a match at times. And it all just started to click. It was no good actually watching anything about the game, and yes, I'm actually aware of the irony there, considering you're watching a video of the game. And it's only if you're able to play Overwatch that it makes some level of sense, but only after a few hours. But the fun of Overwatch pretty much dropped off when I went back to playing by myself. The beta was just locked to an open play mode by all accounts, where you could be matched, if that's even the best way to say it, to anyone. They could be uber gods who use the power of their minds to control their PCs, to someone who just fell out of bed. Basically someone like me. In essence, public games were not much fun at all, and for the most part, one-sided, which begged the question of, well, what was the point? If you're on the winning team, it was only on the odd occasion you felt like you were helping, and when you were on the losing team, a slow rage was just building up, waiting to be exploding God knows where, and at God knows who. In theory, the actual proper release of Overwatch should feature ranked play, which means that you're more likely to get matched up with people who are on the same level as you, and therefore it should be a better time. But again, we don't know this until the game comes out. Another, I suppose, more minor point I'd like to just bring up here is, what will the experience point system actually be used for within Overwatch? At the time in the beta, all it did was allow you to open up loot boxes when you leveled up, which, in all honesty, they just housed a load of various customizations or just other useless shit. In other various multiplayer games, leveling up, getting more experience would actually unlock different abilities and weapons. So, to what purpose, aside from unlocking TAT, would it actually serve in Overwatch? Again, this hasn't truly been addressed, and we are just going to have to again wait and see. I have to say that based on the Overwatch Open Beta itself, if this is what is to be expected when the final game comes out at the end of the month, then unless you can ensure that you have the time to spend to play it, and you have a bunch of friends who also will always be around to play games with, then it's going to be very hard to recommend to anyone. You see, in a strange sort of way, it's kind of like the same syndrome you've got with other multiplayer-only games, like Dota and Heroes of the Storm. The major difference is that while Dota and Heroes of the Storm are free-to-play for the most part, Overwatch will be a full-price game on release, and therefore, you're gonna be wanting to be a little bit more sure about spending money on a multiplayer-only game here. People have been spending money on multiplayer-only games quite a lot recently. For example, Star Wars Battlefront, only to get bored and wander off after a brief period of time due to sameness and the lack of anything new. Oh, and I suppose in the case of Star Wars Battlefront, that 120 odd quid price tag for all the content didn't really help matters. With free-to-play, it doesn't matter. With a proper release, you do wonder about its long-term future. After all, you will have spent money on it. On that front, when it comes to Overwatch, this is Blizzard we're talking about. A company who is still patching old games like Diablo 2 and Warcraft 3 released well over a decade ago to this very day. So technically speaking, in terms of patching support, etc., I suspect that won't be the issue. No, I suspect the actual issue will be is what Blizzard have in mind for the future of Overwatch and what they will do to expand it out, or will they make sequels? What will they actually do after this initial release? Only time will tell, of course, and to be fair, there's no guarantee what anyone will actually do after a release of a multiplayer game, as, well, unfortunately, recent history has attested to. We will, of course, see what happens when the full game comes out, and how different it actually is to the open beta. But, in essence, the takeaway from this video is that the Overwatch open beta did more to put me off the game than to get overly excited for it. And judging from what others have been saying to me, this is going to be Blizzard's biggest problem to address. If the full game does indeed do something to address the concerns I have and talked about in this video, then perhaps it actually will be worth the cash. But just based on the evidence so far, I have serious reservations. Well, thanks very much for listening to me prattle on about Overwatch for a few minutes, campers. It's been rather nice to get this off my chest, or my man breast, as I should say, given how big that they've become. But in any case, you can catch all sorts of other bollocks on the You Sometimes channel. You know, I've got to say all the usual gumph that, yeah, do this, do that, do the other. You can do all that, but in the meantime, if you'll excuse me, I've got demon heads to smash. Maybe I should just sit. Maybe I should just shit like this. No, maybe I should just sit like this more, like, you know, because I could be very lazy and just like go like that and go, oh fuck it, I could do Titanic. Look, I'm king of the world. No, I'm sat awkwardly on a chair. Oh, legs. Oh, stretching my balls. Stretching the balls.